Welcome back, campers, to another week of reading at camp. Again, this is Miss Pierre, and I'm here to teach you how to retell stories, including key details, and demonstrate understanding of their central message or lesson. And that standard is RL 1.2. Now, campers, another word for central message or lesson is theme, okay? So to figure out the theme, we must be able to retell the story. And the theme of the story must be universal, which means it must apply to everyone, not just the characters in the story. Okay, now how do we retell stories? Again, retelling a story is putting it in your own words. Okay, we must know the setting, which is the time and place the story takes place. We must also be aware of the characters, which are the people or animals who act out in the story. Okay, we must also know the happenings. Another word for happenings is plot, and that is usually the big juicy part of the story. And it has all the events that are in the story, and it's beginning, middle, and end. Usually the plot is right here in the middle. And then every story has a problem and a solution. The problem is the struggle of the character, and the solution is how that problem is solved. Okay, so today we're gonna read a story that I made up for you. Okay, it's space related since our theme this week is outer space, and we're gonna find these main things right here: setting, characters, happening and plot, problem and solution of the story. Okay, so let's begin, and I'm gonna grab my pen here so we can emphasize the important things. Retelling stories must be in your own words. Have you ever been to outer space? Well, I have. My name is Anna, and I will tell you about a time my friend Joe and I took a trip to outer space. It was a hot, boring day as we sat in the yard. We were so bored. So we got on our rocket ship and flew to outer space. On our way up, we saw a bunch of aliens. They were creepy, but not mean. We passed by, I have the second part here, Mercury and Mars, and decided to land on Jupiter, but not before stopping by Venus. It was too bright and hot for us. Although Jupiter was gassy, it had a lot of space to run around. We left after realizing it was not less bright than Venus. Our poor eyeballs. We left outer space after about an hour because we were hungry and actually missed our lovely planet Earth. We waved at the aliens on our way down. Lunchtime, we both shouted as we jumped out of the spaceship. So now I'm gonna go back to the first chart, and I'll put this one here. We'll move it up in a second. The first thing we're gonna identify is the setting. Where does the story take place? Okay, I'm gonna let you guys think a little bit. Now, this story here has multiple settings, so we have to find all of the settings. Okay, let's start from the beginning. It was a hot, boring day as we sat in the yard. Okay, so there goes our first setting. Okay, then what did they do next? They went onto their rocket ship and flew to outer space. So outer space is our second setting. And then when they got to outer space, we have more places here. They passed Mercury and Mars, so that's not considered a setting because they just passed it. And they also passed Venus, so that's not considered to be a setting. It's not, they're not there. Okay, but they did land on Jupiter. Okay, and then they left Jupiter and went back home. Okay, which we already underlined here which is the yard. Now the next step, boys and girls, is to find out the characters. This time we're gonna circle the characters instead of underlining, okay? So now we have a name here. Names help us see characters really quickly. Okay, and then she says she has a friend, and that friend is Joe. So we're circling Joe. Are there any other characters? Yes, there is. Okay, they pass by a bunch of aliens. Now these characters are not too important because all they did was pass by them. They didn't have a conversation with them. They didn't sit down and discuss anything with them. They were just passing right by. Okay, so these characters right here, the aliens, are not too important, but they are still characters. Okay, next are the happenings. Okay, this will go back to underlining. Happenings is the events in the story, the plot being the middle part. Okay, so what are some things that happen? Let's go back. They were bored, so they got on their rocket ship and flew to outer space. Matter of fact, instead of underlining, we're gonna draw a box so that way we don't get it confused. Okay, and then let's put this chart up and see what else is happening. So although Jupiter was gassy, it had a lot of space to run. So this is something else that happened. They were running all over Jupiter. But then they left realizing it was very bright, just like Venus. Okay? And then finally, they went back home for lunch. Okay, so all this would be happenings as well. Passing by the aliens again and going back home. Okay, finally, we're gonna put stars next to the problem and the solution. Okay, so I saw a problem on the first chart, and that is the reason why they started traveling to outer space. Okay, they were bored. So we're gonna put a star next to the words boring and bored. Okay, because that was their first problem. And then they have another problem here. Okay. Venus was too bright. That's another problem. Okay, so to solve that, they decided to go to Jupiter, which is another problem. Jupiter is a problem because it was also too bright. Okay, so their solution is that they went back to home, to Earth. Okay, so that is it for today, boys and girls. Remember to always believe in yourself, and I will see you tomorrow.